WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, now at episode 145. Unbelievable, right here. I'm your host, Ray Russell, and this week we bring you September 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. Going to look at all the news and results going on here in the month of September as SummerSlam now behind us. Unreal, guys. Can't believe we're already here. Heading into the fall season for the WWF in 1988. But before we get going, just a quick shout out to guys like Matt Crowder, Benji Sebastian and family. What's going on, Antonio? All the great supporters and loyal listeners, not just of the Wrestling Memory Grenade, but of many of the WrestleCopia podcasts. I want to thank you guys for your ongoing support of the brand. Now, as I said, SummerSlam behind us, the summer coming to a close here in the next couple of weeks, and thus the Grenade going to be making a couple changes itself in the real-time fall of 2024 here. More on that at the end of the program. But don't worry, guys, we are not changing projects. But just stay tuned for that at the end of the show. Right now, we jump back into things this week with September news for 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. And with Hulk Hogan making his official return to the WWF rings at SummerSlam, the Hulkster will be right back in place headlining the A shows, the house show loops, as September begins. Meanwhile, WWF champion Randy Savage appears to be taking a well-deserved 10-day sabbatical following the pay-per-view. Can't find him on results anywhere, as the Macho Man will rejoin the house show circuit starting September 9th. Well-deserved rest by the Macho Man Randy Savage, but who's resting with Elizabeth by their side? Well, guys, it happens from time to time, and here, as we head into September, we say goodbye to a couple of names, including referee Jack Kruger, the shouting ref, Happy Jack Kruger, as we've dubbed him here on the Grenade. Kruger gone. His final TV taping was prior to SummerSlam, which explains why I noticed, as we headed into the pay-per-view, that there was no Kruger sighting on SummerSlam, but rather Tim White making his televised debut as a full-time official here for the World Wrestling Federation. So Tim White essentially replacing Jack Kruger, at least for the short term, in that slot. So Happy Jack is, if you go back and look into the observers of the time here, heading into the fall, we'll note that Jack Kruger going back to looking for work as a wrestler on some of the dying territories. So best of luck to you, Jack. We hardly knew ye, but boy, was it fun. Also gone from the company here, well, you won't notice it immediately, but Craig DeGeorge, the announcer, sad to say, gone after the mid-August TV tapings, the same tapings as Kruger, really. Now, those won't air until after SummerSlam, meaning when we get into September TV, we'll still see some Happy Jack and some Craig DeGeorge for the next several weeks on TV. But by the end of September, both will be gone officially from the company, both on screen and off. And of course, we go back, we think about DeGeorge's debut. I believe he was thrown right into an angle following Jack Tunney out to the ring as Tunney fires Dangerous Danny Davis as a referee. From there, DeGeorge did everything from update segments to special reports, losing his voice at WrestleMania 4. But you guys will probably remember Craig best from the special interviews up on the platform. DeGeorge has been hosting those essentially from their inception back at the end of last summer. And Craig started off doing the interviews on both Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. But with the debut of the Brother Love Show taking up one TV, DeGeorge then relegated to one special interview per week. So I guess you could say the writing was on the wall here for the last few months. Craig DeGeorge now gone from the company. And with Sean Mooney here to fill the void, well, I guess I can't complain. But with a couple of names gone, you can add Rod Trongard as the latest member of the WWF announce team. Rod will head up commentary for some televised house shows upcoming. First, it was Roger Kent, now Rod Trongard. Vince just fucking with Verne Gagne for no reason. And as we've discussed over the last couple months here in the company, it appeared as if they were separating the Killer Bees. And I can now officially report the Killer Bees are no more as a tag team. Now, both will stick around as singles for the time being, Brian Blair keeping the bee gimmick, or at least the trunks. Meanwhile, Brunsy, Jumpin' Jim, going back to his old tie-dye routine from the AWA run. Now, with the bees disbanding, we've got to fill the void in the tag team scene. Not on the babyface side, but rather the heel side. Another tandem coming to the World Wrestling Federation as on September 10th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the team of Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson officially quit the NWA. As they'd been threatening to do so for the past couple months, we've read about it in the Observers. And on their last night in the company, they did drop the World Tag Team title belts to the Midnight Express and what apparently was an unplanned title switch. You think? Meltzer reporting there were no TV cameras there, nor any aftermath photographers to capture the title change, but that's okay because one lone fan snuck in a handheld camera and recorded that match. It may be on YouTube, but I do know it exists. The Midnight Express, the new NWA World Tag Team Champions. Meanwhile, Arn and Tully on their way to the WWF. And I dove into the Observer to get a little information here. As DeMeltz goes on, he says the rumors of Arn and Tully leaving have been going hot and heavy for quite a while. During the early part of the year, Anderson was making a public appearance for the NWA at a TV syndication convention. Meltz believes it was the NatP convention. However, with Arn there, Vince McMahon was at the same convention, and the two men disappeared together over lunch for several hours. From all reports, the two had a very amicable meeting, and Titan had been interested in Anderson since that point in time. Blanchard had also been wanting to go to the WWF, but there were some questions all along if Titan would be interested in him, since it would appear he doesn't necessarily fit their style, their look. However, Anderson and Blanchard will arrive together on October 5th as the latest team to the WWF, the Brainbusters. Their manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Couldn't have picked it better. Well, we've got a bit of sad news to report here in September as well. Legendary wrestler, junior heavyweight, and promoter Leroy McGurk of the old Tri-States territory passed away on September 9th in Claremore, Oklahoma. Leroy McGurk, aged 78. So we're going to notice in some upcoming TV tapings, his daughter, ring announcer Mike McGurk, will be missing a set of wrestling challenge tapings. And that is obviously why her father passing away there. Also, hey, remember guys, at SummerSlam, the debut of one Baron von Raschke. So Raschke now a part of the WWF as the manager of the Powers of Pain. However, it's reported that Raschke appeared on an AWA arena show September the 8th in Usio. Did I pronounce that right? Usio, Minnesota, which is surprising since he's already been with the WWF for several weeks. We'll have to see how that plays out in the weeks to come here. Following SummerSlam, Jesse the Body Ventura headed back to Hollywood, or rather Toronto, filming a movie called Thunder Guard, directed by David Mitchell, so says DeMeltz. He says there aren't any well-known actors in the flick, and Ventura has the leading role. Well, actually, the name of the movie was Thunderground, Dave. You guys never heard of it? Me either. Also, based on how I read the film synopsis, Jesse is definitely not the lead role, but rather one of the top bad guys. And as you guys heard at SummerSlam repeatedly, the Survivor Series is back for round 2, once again Thanksgiving night, and once again in the Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio. Survivor Series, here we come. As we will see on the upcoming September house shows, guys, Hulk Hogan getting ready to debut his war bonnet, aka the old fist helmet, along with his complimentary Hulkster 1 license plate hanging from a chain around his neck. Talk about a new look for the Hulkster. Now, the plan was to sell these things for Christmas to kids. I say originally because this falls flat pretty quickly. I don't know if the fist helmet's going to make it to Halloween, much less Christmas, but seriously, Hulk Hogan's been gone for 4 months, guys, and this was what the marketing geniuses came up with over at Titan during his absence. I can hear Vince now. You're fired, pal. Whoever came up with this idea, fired indeed, but you got to put a little blame on the Hulkster who actually came back and agreed to wear this to ringside, although I guess maybe he saw dollar signs in this idea. It just wasn't meant to be, but check my social media, guys. Plenty of War Bonnet action coming your way. Also, as we will see, Bobby the Brain Heenan has acquired the services of one Terry Taylor as the latest member of the Heenan family, changing his name to the Red Rooster. The idea being that Taylor is average, if not lesser than, in every way from a typical WWF superstar. But with the brain behind him, the Red Rooster will be successful. Why? He can have a name as silly as the Red Rooster and still be a winner with Bobby Heenan by his side. Well, we'll have to see about that. Meltzer quips, with Taylor in a rooster outfit and Owen Hart dressed up like a chicken, what's next here? Let's not forget about Coco Beware, Dave. Also, Curt Hennig rumored to be getting a nickname. Hopefully not the Orange Otter. No, Hennig rumored to be getting a gimmick, though, that should fit him perfectly. Also, the one-man gang back on the tube, with Slick still as his manager. We haven't seen a whole lot of the gang over the summer, but he's back sporting a new crew cut. Going to grow that hair in and get a new African name, soon to be known as AKEEM, the African Dream. DeMeltz refers to it as a white wrestler pretending to be black. Can't wait for that one. There's also going to be a new quarterly WWF magazine called Spotlight, the magazine focusing on a particular talent or talents in each issue. And some of those Spotlight mags had some really cool pictures inside. As we go on, just a couple pieces of news left here. As we will see in the next few weeks on TV, Gorilla Monsoon going to be missing a few tapings. Meltzer wants us all to know that the Gorilla is still with Titan. No shit, Dave. Meltzer goes on to say that Gorilla Monsoon just missed a few announcing dates, mostly with Vince filling in on primetime because of Monsoon's father's death. So Gorilla's father passing away here in 1988. Speaking of primetime, DeMeltz says wrestling is anything but primetime when it airs on Wednesdays at 12:30 a.m. Yikes. Hopefully that's not long term. Doesn't sound too good for the short term time frame of prime time, but I'm watching either way right here on the Grenade. You guys watch along with me. And lastly, George the Animal Steel has been out of action due to a medical problem which has required hospitalization. His final match took place at the Wrestling Challenge tapings on August the 24th versus Larry Stevens. That match to air here on September the 11th. Now, Steele will be forced into retirement after this, guys, due to these medical health issues, and he won't return to a WWF ring for something like a decade. So the George Steele mine run coming to an end here. So with the Animal soon to be off our TV screens, it sounds like the Brainbusters may get a slot on the shows. And for that, I shall not complain. And all right, guys, that's going to do it in the WWF News Department here for September 88. Up next, you're going to look into all the results here for September, see all the goings-on coming out of the summer, coming out of SummerSlam. New matches, new feuds right around the corner. And we're going to get into all of that right after this WrestleCopia timeout.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF Project You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right, guys, welcome back to the program. Time to jump into September results for 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. Now, don't forget to jump online, head over to places like the history of WWE.com. Great site started up by Graham Cawthon, kept up by Richard Land. You can click on that 1988 result link there and scroll along with me as we look at results from September 88 in the World Wrestling Federation. Now, I do my results a little differently than a site like the history of WWE, guys. I lump together the house shows that have repeat results, so we're not sitting here for 3 hours reading over these same results over and over, city to city. I will say this, it becomes more and more complicated as the WWF has expanded full-time at this point in time to 4 shows per night. That's right, you heard me right, 4 shows a night, A, B, C, and D shows. And we're going to take a look at what those looked like at the beginning of September, and we're going to work our way backwards. Kick off with the D show here. It's exactly like it sounds. You're going to hear that in just a moment. As we look at some shows from September 2nd through the 5th, 4 nights here, from Canton, Ohio at the Civic Center in front of just 500 fans to Kittanning, Pennsylvania at the Belmont Ice Arena in front of just 369 fans. Also Kingston, Pennsylvania, Bishop O'Reilly High School, and Asbury Park, New Jersey at Convention Hall. The card looks like this. Remember, just a D show, guys. 5 matches on the card, including Scott Casey over Sandy Beach, Jim Powers pinning Iron Mike Sharp, Brutus Beefcake coming to town, trying to get some revenge over Ron Bass, and he does so, slightly. Beefcake going over the Outlaw, but on disqualification. Now, some cities haven't been lucky enough to get the old Ken Patera-Dino Bravo feud, so it's still making the rounds, at least on the D shows. Dino Bravo pinning Ken Patera after an arm wrestling match that Patera won. And in the main event of the night, the Rockers scoring wins over the Conquistadors. Matches reportedly going anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. Great match, but main event? I don't know. And some would argue Beefcake and Ron Bass the true main event here. I said some would argue, not me. We move on to the C shows, a Canadian tour. Going to take a trip through 4 provinces here: Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Ontario, and Quebec. Running from September 2nd through the 11th, a 10-day tour in Canada. And those C shows going to see Frenchie Martin over Richard Charland, Leaping Lanny Poffo defeat DJ Peterson, Hillbilly Jim over Terry Taylor. Ugh, Terry, you can't get the brain soon enough. Also, ladies champion Sensational Sherry downing Rockin' Robin, Tito Santana over King Haku by disqualification. That King push for Haku? I don't know about that. Tito going over by disqualification there, and in the final match of the night, Powers of Pain picking up victories over Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov, the Bolsheviks. The C show, not much higher than the D show. Talk about spreading it a little thin there, Vince, as we go off to, well, we're getting a little better here. B shows here from September 2nd through the 5th. Portland, Oregon at the Memorial Coliseum. Don Owen country there, going to draw 3,000 fans for the World Wrestling Federation. Also, Winnipeg, Manitoba, the old Winnipeg Arena in front of just 2,500 fans. Regina, Saskatchewan at the Agridome, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan at the Saskatchewan Place, which drew 5,000 fans, all of them out to see, well, quite a fun card, actually. Curt Hennig pinning Jumping Jim Brunzell, One-Man Gang over the Junkyard Dog, Birdman, Coco Beware downing Crippler Rip Oliver, at least in Portland. Also, the Fabulous Rougeaus over the Hart Foundation, Andre the Giant over Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a lumberjack match. Now, that matchup happening every night. Jake the Snake Roberts also battling Ravishing Rick Rude to a double count out. Now, they will shake things up a little bit in Winnipeg. Some of the undercard looks a little different, including the Blue Blazer coming to town, scoring a win over Barry Horowitz. It's Bad News Brown over the Birdman, Coco Beware. Blue Blazer back in, working double duty in Winnipeg, subbing for the Junkyard Dog. Blazer getting a count-out victory over the One-Man Gang. Would have been interesting to see that one. And remember the double count-out between Jake and Rude in some cities. Well, in Winnipeg, it was Jake Roberts pinning Rick Rude with the DDT. And that's going to continue for the rest of the loop as well. Jake Roberts going over by pinfall. Now, the only other difference I can find in Saskatoon, the Hart Foundation Rougeau Brothers match is changed up to a singles match. The Hitman Bret Hart scoring a win over Jacques Rougeau. Now, this may play a part in something upcoming. We know Raymond Rougeau is soon going to be walking around on crutches, an injured leg. Now, we will see the Rougeaus back in the ring the following day, and for the remainder of the month, I do believe. But this may be where Raymond initially tweaked his knee. So it is the Hitman going solo in Saskatoon, scoring a victory over Jacques Rougeau, but it won't be the biggest win of the Hitman's career in Saskatoon. If you know, you know. As we roll on to the A shows, September 2nd through the 5th in New Orleans, Louisiana at the old UNO Lakefront Arena. UWF country there. Also Orlando, Florida at the Orange County Civic Center, and Tallahassee at the Leon County Civic Center in front of 3,200 fans. In Florida? Let's see the card. Now, I don't have results, but I do know, while this is a pretty fun card itself, the undercard a little light. Paul Roma over Danny Davis. Hercules defeating B. Brian Blair. Scott Casey over Sandy Beach. Big Boss Man defeating Sam Houston. There's a matchup here between The Rock, Don Morocco versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. I don't have results for that one, but I do know the Ultimate Warrior retained his IC title over the Honky Tonk Man. Demolition defeat the British Bulldogs, and Hulk Hogan returns to the house shows, scoring wins every night over the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. As we jump ahead, September 9th and 10th, Cincinnati, Ohio, Riverfront Coliseum in front of 6,000 fans. The following day, Buffalo, New York, Memorial Auditorium. Going to see Hercules again over Brian Blair. Jimmy Powers pinning Gentleman Jerry Valiant. You heard me right, Jerry Valiant, not Johnny, but Jerry Valiant in here, subbing for Steve Lombardi on these cards. Jim Powers scoring wins over Jerry Valiant in 1988. Also in Cincinnati, Jake Roberts pinning Bobby the Brain Heenan. That had to be fun. The Snake Man with a DDT on the Brain, who was subbing for Rick Rude. Now Rude returns the following day in Buffalo. Jake Roberts scoring a win there as well. Back to both cities, Demolition retaining their titles over the British Bulldogs. Dino Bravo defeating the Birdman Coco Beware. Brutus the Barber Beefcake over Outlaw Ron Bass by DQ. And the Macho Man, WWF Champion, back in action. After that nice 10-day vacation, Randy Savage scoring a win over Andre the Giant by disqualification in Cincinnati. A double countout in Buffalo between champion and challenger. Also September 9th and 10th in Johnstown, Pennsylvania and Reading, Pennsylvania in front of just 750 fans. Going to see Sam Houston over Iron Mike Sharp. Scott Casey pin George Scotland, son of the legendary Arnold Scotland. In Johnstown, I'm reading Sam Houston playing double duty, scoring a win over Sandy Beach. Meanwhile in Reading, SD Jones coming back to score a win over Sandy Beach. Both nights, it's Greg the Hammer Valentine over Don Morocco. In Johnstown, the Jim Duggan one-man gang match scrapped. The gang a no-show, so instead Hacksaw scoring a win over the Big Boss Man by DQ. Meanwhile in Reading, the gang is back in time. Jim Duggan, another win, this time over the gang by DQ. In both nights, the show going to close with the Rockers scoring victories over the Conquistadors. All right, guys, here we go. Got some sound bites coming up. As September 10th, we head off to the Boston Garden in front of 8,000 fans, televised on the New England Sports Network. Included the debut on TV of one Rod Trongard. He's accompanied by the superstar Billy Graham and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary here. Now, there was a scheduled match to take place here between Greg Valentine and Don Morocco, but that match moved to another house show and thus will not take place here in Boston, but that's okay because we've got a bit of a loaded card. And right now we're going to go off to a slew of promos for said card featuring the Honky Tonk Man and the Ultimate Warrior talking about their upcoming IC title rematch from SummerSlam. We're also going to hear from Ted DiBiase and his opponent, Hulk Hogan. But that's not all, guys. Tag team action upcoming. We're going to hear from both sides as well there, talking about the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers and the Hart Foundation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Mooney here at the WWF Event Center. Hey, Boston, it will happen Saturday night, September 10th. Mark that date on your calendar because that is the evening when World Wrestling Federation action will return to the Boston Garden. And listen to these spectacular matches coming your way. In singles competition, young stallion Paul Roma, he'll face dangerous Danny Davis. Also, Killer B, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell to take on Curt Hennig. Ken Patera, the former Olympian, to take on the former prison guard, the Big Boss Man, the Junkyard Dog, to face Harlem's Bad News Brown in a return bout. You know what happened last time. The Hart Foundation, they want the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers again. That will happen right here. And this match, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, to face Hulk Hogan, and for the Intercontinental Championship, the Ultimate Warrior, to face the Honky Tonk Man.
You know, Warrior thinks he's so hot right now, Hulky. You know, he's got T-shirts and posters and pictures and everything, and he's got a couple of fat, pimply faces, little girls screaming all over him. We gotta teach him a lesson. Let's teach him.
He's not hot. This is what's hot.
That's right.
This right here, you see this?
Yeah,
The
baby.
total entertainment package. I sing, I dance.
Do it all.
Everybody's seen me play the guitar. And I'm the greatest intercontinental heavyweight wrestling champion of all time. That's right, I said wrestling champion, because I wrestle. Oh, I do everything else, too. I can do it all. I don't run out there and pound my chest. I don't tie tassels on my arms. I don't paint my face. I want everybody to see what I look like. I want them to see the Honky Tonk Man. And when I wrestle you, Warrior, I'm going to let them see me shake, rattle, and roll you. The shortest, fastest trip you will ever take on your back, pal.
That match for the Intercontinental Championship. This man, he has messed with the manager of the Mega Powers, Elizabeth. He's the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase.
What goes around comes around, Hogan. And I've been waiting for this to come around ever since WrestleMania 4. That's right, you're not a champion anymore. You're not even the #1 contender. You're looking at the #1 contender, but I would be the champion, Hogan, if not for you sliding in the ring, hitting me from behind. You cost me the title, Hogan, and now you're crawling back out from under the rock, trying to make it back to the top. Well, you gotta come through me, baby, and you can't do it. I've waited a long time, and now you're really gonna pay the price.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney right here at the WWF Event Center. And it will be happening right here in Boston, Saturday night, September 10th, at the Boston Garden when World Wrestling Federation action returns. And listen to this spectacular lineup. Paul Roma in singles competition against Dangerous Danny Davis. Also, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell to meet Curt Hennig. Former Olympian Ken Patera to take on the Big Boss Man, the former prison guard. The Junkyard Dog to square off against Bad News Brown. And we have a great title bout here. The Honky Tonk Man defending the Intercontinental title against the Ultimate Warrior. But there is more. None other than the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. He will be here to face the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. And we also have a return bout. You know what happened last time in this one. It will feature the Hart Foundation and the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers, Jock and Raymond.
Hi there, I'm Raymond and this is Jock, and we're the... I'm Jock, and this is Raven, and we're the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers.
You know, what a beautiful victory it was over the Hart Foundation. I mean, it was a thrill of a lifetime, and all our fans were behind us.
Wasn't it great beating the ex-World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions? They want a rematch, but why? Why? Because they say Jimmy Hart was the cause of their loss. Well, guys, if you want a rematch, the thrill of victory will be ours again, and we'd love to do it.
The Fabulous Rougeau Brothers once again to meet the Hart Foundation. I think there is something to be settled there. The Honky Tonk Man to face the Ultimate Warrior, this for the Intercontinental Championship.
Take a good hard look, Honky Tonk. Take a look at that creature that has been created by all the warriors in the WWF. Rumor has it, Honky Tonk, that you and the Megaphone Mouth are going to teach the Ultimate Warrior a lesson. All the learnings I needed, all the lessons that need to be had, came from the heavens above and the great warriors in the past. You, Honky Tonk, are going to feel the power of the warriors come down on your shoulders and come up from the ground on the bottom of your feet. And there will be no control. I have no control. Only the warriors on my back are going to tell me when I've reached the point of no return. I only hope that it happens when me and you meet in a squared circle, one-on-one.
The Intercontinental Championship on the line at the Boston Garden, September 10th. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney here at the WWF Event Center. And what a night it will be right here in Boston, September 10th. That is the night World Wrestling Federation action returns to the Boston Garden. And just listen to these spectacular matches that are going to take place. The Honky Tonk Man. He'll be there to defend his Intercontinental title against the Ultimate Warrior. Also, Don the Rock Morocco to square off against Greg the Hammer Valentine. In a return bout, tag team competition, the Hart Foundation, they'll take on the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers. The Junkyard Dog to meet the one-man gang. And this one, with all that the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase, has done to the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and what you saw last week, what he did to the Mega Powers manager, Elizabeth, Hulk Hogan can't wait to take on the $1 Million Man. And right now, Ted Dibiase is standing by.
Normally, Hogan, I'm a very patient man because I've got money to be patient. I can wait on anything I want. But I'm not patient about this. I've been waiting for this. I've been counting the days to get your oversized body back in the ring. Ever since WrestleMania 4, the almighty Hulk Hogan, the role model for every kid in the world. Eat your vitamins, say your prayers, and train, huh? Well, how is it, Hogan? Why? Your pride, your ego, when you couldn't get past Andre the Giant and you did the sneak attack on me at WrestleMania 4. You couldn't stand it, could you? Well, you're not a champion anymore, Hogan. You've crawled back out from under the rock. And you're climbing the ladder like everybody else. And you're not even the #1 contender because I am. I'm the new man on the block. I'm the new kid that everybody looks up to on the block, and you have got to stomach it.
There is clearly vengeance on the mind of the Mega Powers. Ted Dibiase to face Hulk Hogan. And what about this return bout? The Fabulous Rougeau Brothers to meet the Hart Foundation.
Well, you know something, Hitman? My, I guess Jimmy Hart is going to make life miserable for us in any way, shape, or form. And let me tell you, Jim, Jimmy Hart is not going to make the difference with the Hart Foundation. And the Rougeaus, you may have lucked out last time, but we got a return match this time. And the Hart Foundation is going to roll. We're going to roll right over top of you, Jacques, and we're going to roll right over you.
Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, to meet the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers at the Boston Garden September 10th. Welcome back. This bout to take place between the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase and Hulk Hogan was a great one to start. There is so much added to it now. You will not want to miss this one. And right now, the Hulkster is standing by with comments.
You know, you Boston Hulkamaniacs, I'm glad you dudes were smart enough to figure out what I've been doing over at Pat Catino's World's Gym, laying in the weeds all these hours, man. Hanging and banging, getting ready for my premeditated attack on the WWF. Multi-million-dollar man Ted Dibiase, you're the one responsible for turning Andre the Giant's back the wrong way with all those bucks you laid on him. You're the one responsible for paying off that senile, no-good Jack Tunney and stripping the WWF Championship from around my waist. But you know something, multi-million-dollar man? I had already planned to break you first, brother. I was going to set everybody up that works for you, Virgil, Heen, and everybody else included, and break them down one at a time. But you've always been first, Dibiase. I'm going to take you and break you financially, brother. And after I do that, after the whole bottom falls in on you, I'm going to go ahead and physically drop you to your knees and start snapping everything that I want. But you know something? When you put your hands on my manager, Elizabeth, when you did what you did to her the last time in the Boston Gardens, you're lucky the Macho Man didn't rip your throat out, brother. He was more concerned about Liz. But now that the stone's been passed to me, now that Elizabeth has been hurt, and I'm the one that's going to be the Marshall Dillon of the WWF to take care of the situation. Multi-million-dollar man, all your money in your life isn't worth 2 cents. I'm the only one that was made to rule in the WWF. From now and forever, Hulkamania lives. And multi-million-dollar man, we're going to find out what type of assets you have, brother, right in the Boston Gardens.
Be sure all you Hulkamaniacs right here in Boston are there to support Hulk Hogan when he faces the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase. And there is more action taking place as well. The Junkyard Dog will square up against the one-man game. In a return bout, the Hart Foundation, a tag team competition against the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers. Don the Rock Morocco to meet Greg the Hammer Valentine, Intercontinental Championship, the Honky Tonk Man, defend his title against the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan to face the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase at the Boston Garden September 10th.
Well, there you hear it. A pre-title loss Honky Tonk Man cutting some promos, looking to defend his title against the Warrior Man. But UW already champion, as we know now. Also, Ted Dibiase can't wait to get his hands on the returning Hulk Hogan. Going to wait and see how that plays out in a moment. And the Fabulous Rougeaus do not seem too concerned about their opponents, the Hart Foundation. Don't get too cocky too soon, Rougeaus. As we head to the ring to look at the results here in Boston, it's the Blue Blazer over Barry Horowitz with a flying splash off the top rope. Paul Roma with a pretty top rope missile dropkick straight to the face, scoring what I call a surprise win over Dangerous Danny Davis. Also, the Hart Foundation defeating the Fabulous Rougeaus by DQ when the Hart's looking for the heart attack finisher on Jacques Rougeau. Brother Raymond rushes over, shoving referee Hebner in the way, causing the Hitman to knock Hebner down, and the referee calling for the bell, signaling a disqualification. The Rougeaus shoving him in to the heart attack to prevent Brother Jacques from taking the move. The Rougeaus coming back out later, demanding a rematch next time around here in Boston, but this time not with a crooked official like a Hebner, but rather the Rougeaus wanting to pick their own referee. We'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Also on the card in Boston, Bad News Brown with another clean victory, landing the Ghetto Blaster on the Junkyard Dog. Honky Tonk Man coming for a little revenge and, of course, his IC title back. And he's going to score the win here over the Intercontinental Champion Ultimate Warrior, but only on a countout. Warrior chasing Honky around ringside, Jimmy Hart jumping on the back of Warrior while Honky rolling back inside to score the countout victory. However, the referee watching Jimmy Hart climbing on the back of the Warrior doesn't do a damn thing about it, continues the count. Very questionable. You want to talk about crooked refs. Honky Tonk Man going over, but he won't win the title here. Also on the card, one of the earliest references of Curt Hennig as Mr. Perfect, scoring a win here over Jumping Jim Brunzell, blasting him right between the eyes with the axe, that forearm punch, whatever that was, right in the forehead of Jumping Jim. Down goes Brunzell, and Mr. Perfect picking up another victory. Another heel acquiring yet another victory in his build, talking about the Big Boss Man, pinning Ken Patera. Patera missing a corner charge, running into a Boss Man clothesline, followed by the Big Splash. Going to give the former prison guard the win there. And then out comes Hulk Hogan. But he's not alone, guys. He's accompanied by his war bonnet, the fist helmet. The TV debut of the fist helmet out here, at least in ring, as the Hulkster arrives, posing with the helmet. Of course, he takes it off for the action. But the finish, going to see Virgil grab hold of the helmet, put it on his head, and ask DiBiase up on the apron, his Verge, hey, Teddy, use this. Ram Hogan into my head. Now, surely that would be a disqualification. Luckily for the fans, the Hulkster stops dead in his tracks and reverses it, driving DiBiase head first into the helmet. Hulkster then knocking Virgil off the apron, putting on the helmet himself, and dropping the big leg to score the victory, sending the fans home happy. The Hulkster using the fist helmet O'Doom right in front of the official. But I guess since the bad guys were trying to use it, all was fair. Now, we got a very similar card to this the day before September 9th, Springfield, Massachusetts. 3,600 fans, just a few differences here, including the Rougeaus defeating the Hart Foundation by pinfall. Rather than Honky over Warrior on a countout, it was Warrior over Honky by DQ. And rather than Boss Man defeating Ken Patera, it was Ken Patera defeating Bill Woods, who randomly pops up on some of these Northeastern house shows to fill the void. Not really sure what ins he had with the company, but I've seen his name more than once here in 1988. Well, the action just keeps rolling, heading off to East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Meadowlands, Brandon Byrne Arena. September the 11th, televised on the MSG network, included Sean Mooney, Superstar Graham, and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary. Another big card here upcoming. And we've got a group of live promos done at the Meadowlands for you guys right now. Day of the show, we're going to hear from the Hulkster, War Bonnet and all, the Hulkster's opponent, one Bad News Brown. Also, later tonight, it's going to be the $1 Million Man taking on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Going to hear from both sides there. The Hart Foundation meeting the Rougeaus yet again. We're going to hear from both teams once more. And then we'll hear from Ravishing Rick Rude. His opponent tonight, the Snake Man, Jake Roberts.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lord Alfred Hayes. Standing with me is the world's greatest professional athlete, Hulk Hogan. Hulk, you have a nasty character to go against tonight. You have the unbeaten, undefeated Bad News Brown.
Well, your lordship, I just came across the George Washington Bridge, brother, and with the traffic jam, I went ahead and put the largest back in the world across New Jersey and New York City, just so all my Hulkamaniacs, brother, could come see what was going down with Bad News Brown, brother. Ever since they saw the Hulk Hogan War Bonnet, they knew that every number one contender was going to be knocked in the gutters, man, all the way back to the WWF Championship. You know something, Lord? You can count your lovers, man. You can count your friends, but you can't count all of the Hulkster's victims on the way to the championship again. What do you think those 20,000 plus Hulkamaniacs are going to do when I walk out with that war bonnet on?
I'm sure they're going to scream for you, Hulk.
It's just going to be like in Rome. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Hulkamaniacs, tell me how bad you want me to beat him.
We'll be right back with this match and a lot more action. Thank you, Sean. As you can see right now, my guest is the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase, and the ever-present Virgil. Ted Dibiase, this evening, you're going to go against a man who really doesn't care how much money you have, and he doesn't care about Virgil being in your corner
either. Let me tell you something. When it's all over and done, Hacksaw Jim Duggan will definitely care about the $1 Million Man and all my money. I am sick and tired of the World Wrestling Federation. I'm sick and tired of being shanghaied and abused by the World Wrestling Federation. Time and time again, they try to throw stumbling blocks in my way. Well, let me tell you something. I said it a long time ago, and I'm going to say it again right now. I always get what I want. I always get what I want. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan, yes, you're a big, strong man. You're a big, strong man, but you are the living example, the epitome of what they call a big, dumb jock. When you climb in the ring with the $1 Million Man, you are strictly very much outclassed, way beyond your highest expectation when you climb in the ring with me, buddy. And tonight you are going to get the wrestling lesson of your life, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And oh yeah, that board, well, bring that board on down. Virgil, show them what we got. Show them one of them guns.
And there you have it from Ted DiBiase. I'm going to send you back to the ringside. Standing alongside me now, I have two young men who will shortly be going into the ring against the Fabulous Rougeaus. I have Bret Hart on the right, and I have Jim Neidhart here on the left. Tell me, recently there's been dissension in your camp. Do you think you can overcome this, or do you think you're going to be at a disadvantage?
Well, I don't think we're going to be at any disadvantage. Hitman, what? The Rougeaus, they don't like Montreal. They're looking for a place to stay in the United States. Well, they don't want you in Los Angeles. I know that. They don't want you in New York. They don't want you in Colorado Springs. They don't want you in Houston. Where are they going to go, Hitman?
Let me tell you something, Alfred Hayes. It makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach what the Rougeaus are doing. The Rougeau brothers have gone too far. They've made a mockery of the American public, waving their little American flags. But now the Hart Foundation is onto them, and we are going to wipe the Rougeau brothers off the face of the United States of America.
Now you've heard from the Hart Foundation. We're going back to ringside, and Sean Mooney is ravishing Rick Rude. Now recently, Rick, there was a sort of a spectacle in the ring. You were in the ring, and the opponent, the man you're going to have to face tonight, came in there, and I believe he embarrassed you in some fashion or other. You thought you had everything
that's right. You got that word exactly right, Hayes. The man embarrassed me. But he didn't embarrass me by ripping my tights off. If it was up to me, I'd walk around in my birthday suit all day long. You understand? I'm proud of myself. But I'm embarrassed because I let that snake, and that's exactly what he is a snake, come up from behind and take him.
Well, I would like to suggest you weren't only embarrassed, you were rather humiliated. Now, are you really thirsting for so much revenge that you're going to risk having the same thing happen to you again?
Oh, it won't happen again, Hayes, because this time Roberts has to come face first. He's not going to creep up from behind when I'm in the ring with another opponent. He's got to come at me man to man. And you know, as well as I know, that Jake Roberts can't match Ravishing Rick Rude in any way, shape, or form.
But he has another incentive. Weren't you at one time rather insulting to Jake the Snake Roberts' wife?
I never insulted Jake Roberts' wife. All I wanted to do was give the woman what she deserves. Give the woman a little piece of heaven. And am I correct in mentioning that she will be at ringside? And that will be my incentive, little man.
And Roberts is going to be in the ring with you. We're going to send you back ringside, in fact, right now. As you can see, I'm standing here being pestered by the fabulous... Will you please stop that? Thank you. A little. By the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers, Jacques to my left and Raymond on my right. Now, a little while ago, there were two gentlemen here, the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, and they said you were the Reggies, or something?
Now, Lord, you know the difference. You know that our name is Rougeau, Rougeau. It's a good old American name anyway.
Well, they said you weren't going to be terribly welcome here, or Los Angeles, or Chicago, or Denver in Colorado. They said especially here in New York.
Honestly, wouldn't you like to be my neighbor?
I certainly would not. Raymond.
And, Lord, well, you know the good old saying, sticks and stones may break our bones, but when the match is over, we're going to have our hand raised. And we're going to do it just for you because we want to represent you people well. And we don't want to let them down. That's right, John.
Well, I think the Hearts are going to have something else to say about this. Not only say, but do about this.
Lord, there's something we have to state that's very important. We know now, down deep inside, that you like us, and we love you too.
Well, with that, back to the ringside, and Sean Mooney, will you please stop waving? A short while ago, I had a guest here, the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase, and he had some very discouraging things to say about my next guest. In fact, he really put him down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my next guest. And I really don't have to tell you who...
If you keep those lights out of my way, I won't knock them over. Excuse me for being late, Lord, but like you see, I got tangled up in some lights out there.
Now, I'd like to talk about one thing. Theodore DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. I like to call him the nickel and dime dude, you know. He comes out here with those diamond rings, talking about driving around in big, long limousines, flying around in Learjets. Hey, DiBiase, I don't care about that, and the people out there, they don't care about it neither. So when you come on down to the ring, bring Virgil down there with you. He'll pat him on the back, you know, Lord. Try to give him a little moral support. And then just look over that way, because Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to come stomping down to the ring with sweat going one way, hair going the other, eyes looking every which way, but with just one thing on my mind. One thing on my mind, and that's to beat up Theodore DiBiase.
This man is really fired up, and he's coming your way ringside, Sean, very, very shortly, so back to you.
All right, well, everyone sounds ready as we head to the ring. Got to look at some of the action here. All of the action, I should say. Mr. Perfect with another win over Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, this time catching him with a power slam off the ropes. And then we heard from the Hulkster, but it's Bad News Brown out to get some straight-up heel heat as he enters the ring after the opening matchup, warning Hulk Hogan not to show up for their match later in the evening. As Brown says, if the Hulkster shows up, he's going to beat the Hulkster like the San Francisco 49ers beat the New York Giants earlier in the afternoon. Cheap heat, yes, but a good way to get Bad News over as the top heel on the card. As we continue on, we also see action pitting Greg the Hammer Valentine battling the Rock Don Morocco to a 20-minute time limit draw. The bell going to sound just as Morocco about to hit his tombstone piledriver finisher. Now, post-match, Valentine shoving Superstar Graham down at the announce table. Now, you might say, what did Superstar do to Valentine? Remember Graham, the former manager of Morocco, before being forced to retire from that position. But during the matchup, Morocco ripping the shin guard off of Valentine, handing it to Graham for safekeepings. And now Valentine out there to take his property back. Valentine leveling Morocco with the shin guard, reapplying it to his leg and locking in the shin guard assisted figure four, trying to break the leg of Morocco. But it's former manager Billy Graham in there to make the save. Fun little segment there. And honestly, for a 20-minute Valentine Morocco match, not as bad as you might think. Not great, but not as bad as you might think. Also on the card, Hercules pinning the Junkyard Dog. Hulk Hogan scoring the win over Bad News Brown. Get this. Gotta love this one. The Harlem Street Thug, Bad News, grabbing the fist helmet and putting it on. That's right, guys. There are pictures. There's video footage of Bad News Brown wearing the Hulk Hogan fist helmet. His plan to use it against the Hulkster. However, in the end, it would be Hogan turning the tables, using the helmet on Brown, picking up the win, using that helmet to headbutt Brown, knocking him flat out, followed by the big leg drop, the Hulkster on a tear with his war bonnet in hand or on head. Also on the card, Blue Blazer over Barry Horowitz. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase over Hacksaw Duggan by DQ. Duggan going for his trusty 2x4 to even the odds after the matchup. Also, Fabulous Rougeau stealing a pinfall victory over the Hart Foundation after some illegal chicanery. And we close the night in return match. Jake Roberts versus Rick Rude. This time, Jake with wife Cheryl in his corner as the Snake Man going to score a pinfall victory over the Ravishing One. Rick Rude in full control, it would seem, crawling over, making lewd gestures toward Cheryl, and Cheryl's response, a slap across the face of the Ravishing One, who was irate, but the distraction allows the Snake Man to recover just enough to schoolboy Rude, hooking the tights, and Jake Roberts scoring the win over the Ravishing One to end the night. As we roll off September 12th, Peoria, Illinois, Civic Center, 2,411 fans to see Terry Taylor over Lanny Poffo, the Blue Blazer down Barry Horowitz, Mr. Perfect over Jim Brunzell, Bad News Brown over the Birdman Coco Beware, Jim Duggan defeating Ted DiBiase by DQ. Wow, Teddy, we go from Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan to Jim Duggan. No offense to Hacksaw fans, but not the place on the card you would expect to see the $1 Million Man. Also, Fabulous Rougeau's over the Hart Foundation, Greg Valentine pinning Don Morocco. And in the final match of the night, subbing for Jake Roberts, it's Hacksaw Jim Duggan pinning Ravishing Rick Rude. As we continue on, also September 12th, South Bend, Indiana, the old Joyce Athletic and Convocation Center. Brady Boone back here, supposedly, over Steve Lombardi. Paul Roma defeating Dangerous Danny Davis. Big Boss Man over Jimmy Powers. Hercules defeating B. Brian Blair. One Man Gang pinning the Junkyard Dog. Tag Team Champions Demolition, again scoring a pinfall win over the Bulldogs. IC Champion Ultimate Warrior over Honky Tonk Man on DQ. And in the main event, WWF Champion Randy Savage defeating Andre the Giant, also by DQ. So all 3 titles on the line here in South Bend, 2 of them ending in disqualification. As we move on to September 13th in our set of TV tapings for this month, in the dark match, Jim Duggan over Rick Rude by DQ. IC Champion Warrior defeating Honky Tonk by DQ as well. WWF Champion Randy Savage battling Andre the Giant to a double countout, and then a couple of matches that are going to air on the upcoming September 27th primetime includes B. Brian Blair pinning Dangerous Danny Davis with a reverse rolling cradle, and the Young Stallions reunite with a victory over the Conquistadors. Paul Roma again using that missile dropkick to score the win. Then it's off to the Louisville Gardens, Louisville, Kentucky, the following day, September 14th, for the Wrestling Challenge taping. And we talked about Leroy McGurk passing away. This is it. Mike McGurk is missing in action for this show, obviously attending to personal family matters during this time frame. And so Mel Phillips, egads, replacing Mike McGurk once again as the Wrestling Challenge ring announcer. Non-Wrestling Challenge matches at the taping. Going to see matchups slated for the September 20th primetime. Rockers over the duo of Iron Mike Sharp and Dangerous Danny Davis. Well, we see where Davis has fallen on the card. Also, should point out in Boston, going back to Boston for a moment, Jimmy Hart clearly there, costing the Warrior the matchup against Honky Tonk Man, but Jimmy Hart nowhere to be found when Danny Davis did the job for Paul Roma. So I think we can lock it right around September, the time frame where Jimmy Hart abandons one Dangerous Danny. Also upcoming on the October 22nd Spotlight, going to see a matchup involving the brand newly named Red Rooster, with Bobby Heenan by his side, the Rooster defeating the Junkyard Dog by countout. Both men on the floor, Dog accidentally sending the Rooster back inside, JYD unable to beat the count. Rooster going over there. Get used to it, guys. There's going to be a lot of Red Rooster references moving forward for quite a while. Also, to air on September 20th primetime, Bad News Brown over Jim Brunzell with the Ghetto Blaster in a fun little match. Then for the September 27th primetime, Big Boss Man putting away DJ Peterson with the Boss Man Slam. And finally, for primetime October 4th, Outlaw Ron Bass downing Sam Houston with the Texas Gourd Buster, the Outlaw's pedigree. Now, something fun with this one, post-match, Brutus Beefcake going to make the save for Sam Houston here, as the Outlaw once again trying to use his spurs, Brett and Bart, on the head of Houston, much like he had done the Barber. Beefcake appearing ringside to make the save just in the nick of time, so the feud continues on between the Barber and the Outlaw. Actually, it just begins, I should say. Now, also other matches, dark matches, going to see Jake Roberts versus Rick Rude, Warrior retain the IC title over Honky Tonk Man, and another WWF title match between the Macho Man and Andre the Giant in Louisville. But the action just doesn't stop as we go off to house shows from September 15th through the 19th, looking like a C or D show here. Norwalk, Connecticut at the high school in front of just 783 fans. Adams, Massachusetts at the Memorial School. Show was actually moved from the Honsick Valley High School from Cheshire, Massachusetts to Adams, Mass here. Not really sure what happened there. Don't know that I've seen that a whole lot in the WWF. Not just changing venues, but changing cities. Also on this loop, Biddeford, Maine at the Biddeford Ice Arena and White Plains, New York at the Westchester County Civic Center. 500 fans out there in White Plains. Oh, and last but not least, Enfield, Connecticut at the Enrico Fermi High School. Boy, these names. 350 fans at the high school. Somebody did not do their job papering properly here. As we look at the results, going to see Paul Roma over Barry Horowitz, Lanny Poffo down George Scotland. It's Hacksaw Jim Duggan over Dino Bravo by pinfall, after guest referee Brother Love knocked to the floor. So this was the original plan for Brother Love. Now it makes a little more sense, Brother Love doing the interview at SummerSlam with Hacksaw, and of course them referencing Dino Bravo briefly during said promo. Here he is, Brother Love knocked to the floor, a second referee out to make the pinfall attempt, Duggan over Dino Bravo. Also on the card, One Man Gang pinning Ken Patera and the Rockers over the Conquistadors. Again, the match is going reportedly anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes a night between the Rockers and the masked team from somewhere in Latin America. We've also got another troop of guys out right now from September 15th to the 18th in places like Pittsburgh, Kansas at the Pittsburgh State University, also Ottumwa, Iowa at the Coliseum, Burlington, Iowa at the high school gym, and Waterloo at the McElroy Auditorium, out to see DJ Peterson over Sandy Beach, the Hart Foundation, scoring wins finally over the Fabulous Rougeaus, and if that's accurate, by pinfall I mean. This would mark the Rougeaus' first losses as heels. Also on those cards, ladies champion Sherry over Rockin' Robin, Sam Houston defeating dangerous Danny Davis most nights, but we are in the Central States area, so Mike George out at one point to sub for Danny Davis on one of the cards, Sam Houston over Mike George. And in the main event of these shows, The Rock, Don Morocco over Greg Valentine by disqualification. But we're not done yet with this time period, September 15th through the 19th. We also have a West Coast loop, WWF in Fresno at the Selland Arena, Sacramento at the Arco Arena, Los Angeles at the Sports Arena, San Diego at the Sports Arena, and San Francisco at the famous Cow Palace in front of 6,000 fans. Now let's go back and look at some of the numbers here. I don't have them from every show, but in LA, 12,500 fans out for a house show. San Diego drawing 5,000 and San Francisco just drawing 6. As we see Terry Taylor over B. Brian Blair, the Blue Blazer defeating Scott Casey, Bad News Brown over the Junkyard Dog with the Ghetto Blaster, Tito Santana battling the Mighty Hercules to a time limit draw every night, Tag Team Champions Demolition over the British Bulldogs, Intercontinental Champion Ultimate Warrior defeating Honky Tonk Man by disqualification. Also seen Honky Tonk going over by countout on some of those shows. And in the main event, well, I thought it would be Hulk Hogan drawing 12,000 in LA, but instead it is the Macho Man Randy Savage battling Andre the Giant to a double countout. Some nights it's also Savage over Andre by DQ. But it's great to see the Macho Man back in action and drawing some decent houses. Well, we've looked at 3 of the troops here from the 15th to the 19th. We've got one more troop. And boy, do we have a slew of promos coming your way for these. From the 15th to the 19th, places like the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan, Chicago, Illinois, and the Rosemont Horizon, Landover, Maryland, the Cap Center in front of 7,500 fans, and New Haven, Connecticut. We're going to hear some interviews from the Cap Center and New Haven right now, featuring the likes of Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts about their upcoming matchup. We're also going to hear from Ron Bass and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. The feud is on. Hulk Hogan talking about his big match with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And even the Bolsheviks with manager Slick looking forward to their match with the Powers of Pain.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney right here at the WWF Event Center. It will happen right here Saturday night, September 17th at the Capitol Center when World Wrestling Federation action returns. And listen to this spectacular lineup coming your way. Brutus, the Barber Beefcake. He'll be here to take on the Outlaw, Ron Bass, in a return bout. The Powers of Pain in tag team competition against the Russian Bolsheviks. The Birdman, Coco Beware, to take on the new king of the WWF, King Haku. Jim Powers to face the former prison guard. The Big Boss Man, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell to meet Curt Hennig. And yes, Hulk Hogan right here to meet the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. We'll hear from the Hulk later. But let's talk about this return bout 3.5 months in the making. Ravishing Rick Rude to meet Jake the Snake Roberts.
I thought I finished you off, Roberts. A pile of flesh in the middle of the ring. I turned to look for my prize, but she wasn't there. You didn't bring the old lady, Jake. Why not? What were you afraid of? Let me tell you something, Roberts. I've proven to you that I'm more man than you can handle. This time, you bring your woman, so after I prove to you I'm too much of a man, I can show her I'm too much of a man.
Ravishing Rick Rude talking about this matchup with Jake the Snake Roberts, 3.5 months in the making. The Outlaw, Ron Bass, to face the Barber.
Well, I guess you didn't take me serious, Mr. Bass, man. I was talking to you when I was little, when I was laying it out for you, brother. Because now you're Miss Betsy. She's got a split personality, if you know what I mean. You're not going to be running, choking anybody out, tying them in the ropes for a while. No. But I guess maybe you can find you another Miss Betsy, huh? It's okay, brother, because I got these right here. And they're always sharp and ready for business, man. And you know one thing about the barber. He always knows how to use the tools on the trade, brother. And they're ready. So bring Miss Betsy on, Rob Bass. Just bring them on.
The barber plans to cut more than just Miss Betsy and the cowboy hat the next time he meets the Outlaw at the Capitol Center September 17th. And welcome back. Yes, you did hear me correctly. The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, will be right here at the Capitol Center to face the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. And right now, the Hulkster is in the best condition of his entire career. He believes the $1 Million Man is only a stepping stone to bigger things. You can bet he has other things in mind. And right now, the Hulkster is standing by with comments about this match.
You know, DiBiase, you're gonna finally find out what destiny's all about, brother. When you take the wrong paths, when you take all the wrong shortcuts, sooner or later, the whole world's gonna crash in on you, brother. You'd have been a lot better off if all your assets, your T-bills, your real estate, everything that you own was to be taken away from you, brother, by the bank or something. Maybe the United States government. Because when the Hulkster decides to take it all from you, brother, I'm gonna take everything you got, man. Not only am I gonna financially break you and embarrass you, I'm gonna take that Virgil who sticks by you night and day. I'm gonna take him and snap him in half. As far as everybody else, man, that's around you or working for you, I'll get them sooner or later. But multi-million-dollar man Ted Dibiase, you're the reason I'm not the WWF champion. You're the reason my best friend, Andre the Giant, turned on me and tried to take my life. As you go, DiBiase, when I break your bankroll, I'm gonna break it big time. I'm gonna take you down, man. Money and everything else is going out the back door. And when I get you physically right where I want you, please, Mr. Hogan, don't hurt me anymore. That's where I'm gonna take it all. Your pride, your ego, and finally I'm gonna take your soul. Gosh.
Just what will the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase do when he faces the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, right here, Saturday night, September 17th. And that is just part of the action coming your way. Also, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, he will face Curt Hennig. Jim Powers to take on the former prison guard, the Big Boss Man. The Birdman, Coco Beware, to meet King Haku in a return bout. The dynamic Powers of Pain to meet the Russian Bolshevik. Brutus, the Barber Beefcake, to take on the Outlaw, Ron Bass, in a return bout 3.5 months in the making. Jake the Snake Roberts meet Ravishing Rick Rude, and the main event, Hulk Hogan meeting the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase at the Capitol Center Saturday night, September 17th. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney here at the WWF Event Center. And everyone in the Waterbury, New London area, get set, get ready, because Monday night, September 19th, World Wrestling Federation action is back at the New Haven Coliseum. And just listen to this spectacular lineup. Brutus, the Barber Beefcake. He'll take on the Outlaw, Ron Bass from the Badlands of Texas. The Powers of Pain. And tag team competition against the Russian Bolsheviks. Coco Beware to square off against the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase. In singles competition, Young Stallion Jimmy Powers to face King Haku. Killer B Jumpin' Jim Brunzell to take on Curt Hennig. Also, the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. He'll be right here to take on the Big Boss Man. And this one, Jake the Snake Roberts to meet Ravishing Rick Rude.
To love, honor, and obey? Is that what the old lady told you, Jake? Well, I'm afraid she lied. The fact of the matter is, she wanted Ravishing Rick Rude, and the fact of the matter is, you knew it. But now what I'm wondering is, what hurts more? To know that your old lady wants the sexiest man alive, or to know that there's nothing you can do about it? Oh, by the way, Jake, I took it upon myself to put your woman's face in a really, really ravishing place.
Rick Rude to face the Snake September 19th. And Ravishing Rick Rude, you've got trouble in Jake the Snake Roberts.
Come on, you tell me what I'm supposed to feel, Rude. Huh? You think I'm supposed to feel good? You think I'm going to swallow my pride, man, and just walk away? Or maybe stick my tail down between my legs like some little scalded pup? Come on, man. Nobody touches my wife. I mean, there's some things a man will fight for. Maybe he won't fight for his country, his human rights, or even his own money. But any man's going to fight for his woman. And, brother, you think you're too hot for me? Give me a break. I'm much too cold for you.
Well, Jake the Snake Roberts plans to teach Ravishing Rick Rude just how to treat a woman. That will take place September 19th. And what an encounter that is going to be, but it is only part of the action coming your way. Also on this spectacular card, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. in individual competition against Curt Hennig. Also, Jim Powers in singles competition against King Haku. The Birdman, Koko Beware, to meet the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. Tag team competition. The Powers of Pain to face the Bolsheviks. Also, Brutus the Barber Beefcake to meet the Outlaw, Ron Bass, Jake the Snake Roberts to battle Ravishing Rick Rude. And the main event, the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, to take on the Big Boss Man at the New Haven Coliseum Monday night, September 19th. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Mooney right here at the WWF Event Center, and it will happen September 19th at the New Haven Coliseum. That is the night World Wrestling Federation action will return, and what a spectacular lineup is coming your way. On this great card, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. He will face Curt Hennig. Also, Jim Powers in singles competition against King Haku. There is more. The Birdman, Koko Beware, to meet the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. The Powers of Pain. They are a force to be reckoned with. They will face the Russian Bolsheviks. Jake the Snake Roberts meet Ravishing Rick Rude. And the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, right here to take on the Big Boss Man. But what about this matchup? It will feature the Outlaw, Ron Bass. He is to take on Brutus the Barber Beefcake. This one is getting hotter by the day. Let's hear from the Outlaw.
Beefcake, let me just tell you a few things that I learned a long time ago when I was just a little bitty outlaw, when I was just a little hoodlum. You know, I went out and I trapped a lot of animals, and I learned you got them old coyotes in a trap. But there's two kinds of individuals that come through. There's the kind that's going to stand there in that trap, and brother, he's going to snap, he's going to bat, and he's going to fight for his life, anything that comes close to him. And then you got them yellow ones that kind of get down around them kneecaps, and they'll gnaw that leg off, and they're gone, they're running. What I want to know is just what kind of animal are you going to be? You're in the Big Outlaw's trap. Are you going to gnaw that leg off and run? Or are you going to stand there and fight? I hope you choose to fight, because, brother, that's what I like.
You talk about an explosive situation, a price to be paid right here. Also, Ravishing Rick Rude, he will take on the Snake. He's standing by.
Isn't it strange that some people have to be in the spotlight? Some people, we have to sort of be out front, the center of attention. Everybody's got to look at them or they're not happy. Rude, you're like that. You've got my attention. Didn't have my wife, but you got mine. It's not a healthy thing, though. No, it's not. Heenan, you've got my attention, too. That mouth of yours, it's digging you boys a deep hole. Maybe a family plot.
Well, it's payback time for Jake the Snake Roberts at the New Haven Coliseum, September 19th. Welcome back to the WWF Event Center. Earlier in the hour, I mentioned a tag team matchup. And what about it is going to be? It will take place between the Powers of Pain. Now, you have seen enough of these guys to know they are a force to be reckoned with. They will face the Russian Bolsheviks.
You know, the Powers of Pain come to the World Wrestling Federation basking in glory, presenting themselves to be the most outrageous, bodacious tag team in professional wrestling. But what do you have? A lot of muscles, a great big body, a fantastic physique? Well, what do you think these two men are? A couple of puppets? Come out of these jackets. Let them see those bodies. You talk about Powers of Pain. That means you know how to get his body here. But I can't believe we take pain. Look at this here. You do this, and you got to hit me so hard. I know you hit you so hard. You go down. You ugly Americans. Go down. Russia #1. Sponsoring #1.
Nikolai Volkov, Boris Zukov, collectively, they are known as the Bolsheviks. They will square off against the Powers of Pain. Jake the Snake Roberts, he will meet Ravishing Rick Rude.
You know, Roberts, I've decided to leave that old lady of yours alone. Because when I got to look at her up close, I found out she wasn't worth my while. But you see, there's a matter between you and I that needs to be settled. You've been running around the country telling everybody you're a better man than I am. Well, now it's time to prove it, Jake Roberts. I know you got the DDT, and I know what a deadly move it is. But, Jake Roberts, I believe that you're in for a rude awakening.
Tons of great old school event center promos there, guys, as we roll into the action. Now, originally announced for this entire house show loop was Brady Boone versus Steve Lombardi. I do believe, I'm pretty positive at this point, Brady Boone gone from the company. Meanwhile, Steve Lombardi, I have to think he's injured during this period. It's been several weeks of Lombardi out and being substituted for on the house shows. And because we know Steve's going to be with the company for several decades to come. But in their place, they've built us an entirely new matchup involving Iron Mike Sharp over Tommy Angel. One of the NWA Job Guy favorites. It's Mike Sharp over Tommy Angel every night with the loaded wristband O'Doom.
Oh, okay.
Alleged loaded wristband, I might add. Also on the card, Big Boss Man over Jimmy Powers with the Boss Man Slam. In at least one instance, the match clocked in at just 30 seconds. Also on the card, Brutus Beefcake over Ron Bass by DQ. Mr. Perfect pinning Jumping Jim Brunzell with a Power Slam. King Haku over Coco Beware. Powers of Pain continue to dominate the Bolsheviks. Jake Roberts scoring a win over Ravishing Rick Rude with an inside cradle. Rude, of course, again becoming distracted by Cheryl Roberts, leading to Damien coming out of the bag. Little fun there after the matchup. And every night there on the loop, Hulk Hogan over the $1 Million Man, courtesy of the leg drop and likely maybe a little fist helmet shenanigan as well. Now, the only differences here, some small changes in the New Haven market. Few of the matches changed around, including King Haku over Jimmy Powers and Ted DiBiase defeating Coco Beware. And the reason for that is Big Boss Man pushed into the main event to take on Hulk Hogan for the very first time. Big Boss Man versus the Hulkster. And right now we're going to hear from both sides.
Welcome back. There is a man in the World Wrestling Federation who has struck fear into the hearts of all of his opponents, the Big Boss Man. But he will face a man who does not know the meaning of the word fear, the Hulkster, right here, September 19th. Let's hear from the Big Boss Man.
Hogan, the man who's supposed to be hero to millions of kids, adults, women. He eats in the finest restaurants. He drives in the finest automobiles. But boy, you got the wrong idea if you think I care. Because all I'm going to do is beat you, and beat you some more, and beat you till you can't walk, can't move, till nobody looks up to you, till they looking up to me. I'm the authority figure. I'm the man people ought to be looking up to. Tell him, Slick.
You know why he's gonna do it, Hogan? Because he doesn't like you, and I don't like you, and I'm gonna stick him on you because he's got a mean streak. He's the biggest, he's the baddest, he's number one, he's the boss man.
Well, the Big Boss Man, along with Slick, he will have his work cut out for him when he faces none other than Hulk Hogan. We are back, and yes, indeed, you heard me correctly. The Hulkster will be right here at the New Haven Coliseum, September 19th, to face the former prison guard, the Big Boss Man from Cobb County, Georgia. The Hulkster, he is in the best shape of his entire career, and right now, he is a man possessed. He is standing by with comments.
You know, Big Boss Man, I hate to see people get caught up in the system, man. Get caught up in the institutionalized structure, brother. But right now, the Hulkster's got his WWF Hulkamania war bonnet on, man. And I'm declaring war on Jack Tunney and all the #1 contenders throughout the whole WWF. And I kind of feel sorry for you, Big Boss Man, but I don't feel sorry for the Slickster. You seem to be a victim of circumstances, Big Boss Man. You're getting caught up in the system, brother. Everybody knows that the Hulkster rules, man. And ever since the multi-million-dollar man in that no-good Jack Tunney stole the WWF title from me and all my little Hulksters, everybody that is along the chain of command, everybody that is part of this big system of the WWF is going to feel the wrath of Hulkamania. You, Big Boss Man, I see how you handcuff your victims to the ring post, man. I see how you beat them with a nightstick. Well, let me tell you, dude, you're going to pay some hard time, brother. You're going to pay some hard time because the largest arms in the world, man, the arms of the Hulkster, are going to make you pay some serious dues, Jack. Big Boss Man, when you're laying in the middle of the squared circle, 18 by 18, it'll be the largest cage you've ever been in. But as I walk over your body, raise the 24-inch pythons in victory, the last thing you're going to see is the Hulkster, man, with a license plate, Jack, California insignia, because I want you to know who left you laying. It wasn't a 747. It wasn't a freight train, brother. It was a Hulkster and all my Hulkamaniacs. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, with a message for the former prison guard, the Big Boss Man, and a warning to all his future opponents out there in the World Wrestling Federation as he begins his march back to the World Wrestling Federation Championship. You will see him September 19th at the New Haven Coliseum.
All right, for what I believe is the first time ever, New Haven, Connecticut, going to get the Big Boss Man and Hulk Hogan. We heard from both sides right there. And we go to the ring, as it is Hulk Hogan scoring a win over the Boss Man by countout. Boss Man trying to use his handcuffs, but Hogan going to use them against the Boss Man here, handcuffing the former prison guard to the top rope and then clotheslining him over the top. Boss Man hanging on the outside, unable to get back up, unable to get back in. The Hulkster picking up a fun countout victory there in New Haven. I was a little afraid walking in, a little trepidatious walking into the results here. I really thought this was the end of the Boss Man's run as undefeated. Now, yes, he did lose by countout, but the Boss Man has yet to be pinned, even by the future dubbed Orange Goblin. As we go on to Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens there in Ontario, 8,000 fans September the 18th for a televised event featuring the odd pairing of Gorilla Monsoon and Sean Mooney on commentary. Now that is fun, guys. On the card here in Toronto, Mr. Perfect over Jumping Jim Brunzell with the Perfect Plex. Hennig even cutting a promo following the matchup. Billy Redline's in the ring to conduct that one. Also, Iron Mike Sharp over Tommy Angel with that loaded forearm O'Doom. Brutus the Barber Beefcake over the Outlaw Ron Bass by DQ. We could finally see what was going on here in these disqualifications thanks to this show in Toronto. Beefer with the sleeper hold applied. Ron Bass grabbing hold of the referee, pulling him into the move in order to force the Barber to break. Now post-match, the Outlaw going for Miss Betsy number 2, wrapping it around the throat of the Barber, choking him out, but the Barber able to escape and fight back, grabbing hold of Miss Betsy and running the Outlaw off. Also on the card, Powers of Pain over the Bolsheviks in an unnecessary 12-minute matchup here. Also, Jake Roberts pinning Ravishing Rick Rude with the Schoolboy. No Cheryl Roberts this time around, but we do see Damien come out of the bag and chase the Ravishing one off post-match. On the card also, it's $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase over the Birdman Coco Beware. The Big Boss Man pinning Jimmy Powers once again with the Boss Man Slam. And in the main event of the night, Hulk Hogan returns to Toronto, scoring a win over King Haku with a little help from the Fist Helmet. Once again, this time Bobby Heenan ringside, putting on the Fist Helmet, playing the part of Virgil in the DiBiase match. Hogan ramming Haku into Bobby Heenan's head, and the Hulkster taking over, dropping the big leg, scoring the win there. As the Fist Helmet continues to reign supreme. Now think about this, guys. If we had seen this nationally on TV, Hulk Hogan using this Fist Helmet, wanting to sell this to the kids at Christmas time, there would have been a lot of head injuries by January 1989, you'd have to think, because they're showing us, don't just put it on. It doesn't just look cool, brother, but you can use it as a weapon too. Genius marketing, I tell you. As we continue on, September 23rd and 24th in Staten Island at the Wagner College and Latham, New York at the Starlight Music Theater. Match is going to see Lanny Poffo versus Sandy Beach, Rockers over the Conquistadors, Birdman Coco Beware taking losses to King Haku, One Man Gang over Hillbilly Jim, and Greg the Hammer Valentine battling the Rock Don Morocco. No results for the Morocco Valentine matches. That one's been all over the place. So we'll move on. September 23rd, Cape Girardeau, Missouri at the Show Me Center in front of just 1,200 fans. Now that's according to the Melts. If you go and look at the Southeast Missouri in the newspaper, they listed the show as 1,842 fans. Did they get their information from the WWF, or is their information accurate and the Melts just got it from a random fan? I have no idea. And we're going to see a very similar card, only one change in the main event. The following day as well, September 24th, Lexington, Kentucky at the old Rupp Arena. On the shows, Sam Houston versus Scott Casey. Wonder how that one played out. Paul Roma taking on the Red Rooster. Hart Foundation going up against the Fabulous Rougeaus. And then Jim Duggan slated to take on Ted DiBiase in Cape Girardeau. Meanwhile, in Lexington, it's Andre the Giant over Hacksaw Jim Duggan with the Big Boot. Also on both nights, Brutus Beefcake defeating Outlaw Ron Bass. Powers of Pain over the Bolsheviks. Jumping Jim Brunzell scoring wins over Dangerous Danny Davis. And Tito Santana battling Dino Bravo to a double DQ. Also on the 23rd through the 25th of September, very similar cards. The Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio. Philadelphia Spectrum in front of just 3,952 fans on September 24th. And then on the 25th, Syracuse, New York at the Onondaga War Memorial. Now, of course, the Philadelphia show, the Spectrum event, going to be aired on the Prism Network featuring Dick Graham, Rod Trongard, and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary. My God. Every night, similar results. Going to see all 3 nights, Mr. Perfect over B. Brian Blair, catching a Brian Blair running crossbody, Hennig rolling over on top to score the win there. Barry Horowitz defeating DJ Peterson with a Russian leg sweep. Big Boss Man pinning Ken Patera with the big splash. Honky Tonk Man over Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior. They continue to do the count-out spot. Warrior losing his cool after the match, destroying chairs and tables ringside. Warrior losing his cool but retaining the belt. Also on those cards, Demolition continuing to down the British Bulldogs. Now added for Philadelphia and Syracuse, we also see the Hart Foundation and Rougeaus join the card. It's the Hart Foundation defeating the Fabulous Rougeaus by DQ. Once again, the Rougeaus shoving the referee in the way of the Hart attack. Then from there, no doubt, what the fans came to see, Jimmy Powers pinning Iron Mike Sharp with the Power Slam. Big win there for Jimmy. And then every night, the WWF champion Macho Man Randy Savage slated to take on, well, he's got a couple of opponents here. In Richfield, it was Randy Savage over Andre the Giant by DQ. In Syracuse, Savage over the $1 Million Man by pinfall. And in Philadelphia, WWF champion Randy Savage defeating the $1 Million Man inside a steel cage. And we saw this finish before. Must have been in Boston. No, maybe MSG. Virgil climbing to the top of the cage, trying to stop Savage from climbing over. DiBiase meeting them up there. And then it's a meeting of the minds. Savage with the double noggin knocker, Jess. Virgil goes falling all the way, tumbling from the top of the cage down to the concrete. DiBiase taking the bump back in the ring. The Macho Man escaping over the top to retain his title in Philly. September 25th, WWF in Ithaca, New York at the Ben Light Gymnasium, a fundraiser for the Ithaca College wrestling team. Had to be promoted by Gorilla Monsoon. Going to draw 704 fans to see Tony Garea come out of retirement. Garea scoring a win over George Scotland, leaping Lanny Poffo over Sandy Beach, Big Boss Man pinning Ken Patera, King Haku over Coco Beware, Don Morocco over Greg Valentine by DQ, and the Rockers scoring a win over the Conquistadors. And all right, guys, getting down to the nitty-gritty here as we continue on. Going to take a look at the house shows for September 29th and the 30th. As we come to a close here, we head off to New York City, Madison Square Garden, in front of 13,500 fans, just a month removed, literally to the day, since SummerSlam took place in the same venue, this time televised on the MSG network. Included Rod Trongard, Superstar Billy Graham, and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary. As we kick off the show with a very odd finish, no doubt with a New York State Athletic Commission referee, because A, I don't recognize him, and B, this finish makes absolutely no sense. It's Terry Taylor in the opener scoring a win over Sam Houston via referee's decision. The referee randomly calling for the bell, giving Taylor the win, assumingly dubbing Sam Houston unable to continue, even though Sam was the one on the offense when the bell sounds. Very confusing. Wish Gorilla Monsoon was on commentary so he would have buried this official. Super confusing. Go check it out. I'll try to post it on social media in the days to come. Also, the Rockers scoring a win over the Conquistadors. Michaels with a flying splash off the shoulders of partner Jannetty in the corner. Shawn Michaels picking up the victory there for the Rockers over the Masked Team. Junkyard Dog defeating King Haku by disqualification. Dog landing the thump, the power slam Bobby Heenan in to break up the count. And with the Dog gone in less than a month's time, that doesn't say a whole lot for the King Haku character at this point in time. Also on the card, Dino Bravo pinning B. Brian Blair with his patented side suplex. And then from there, the WWF title on the line as the Macho Man Randy Savage with the lovely Miss Elizabeth by his side, battling Andre the Giant, managed by Bobby Heenan. The two going to battle to a double countout. After about 10 minutes of action, it was originally the eighth wonder of the world, Andre, out on the floor. Elizabeth trying to run away from Andre, up on the apron, Andre grabbing hold of her ankle, and he won't let go, forcing the Macho Man to come out to her defense. Macho and Andre brawling on the outside, double countout, and Elizabeth apparently injuring her ankle as Savage has to help her backstage. No doubt, Macho Man going to be hot on the trails of Andre the Giant as the Garden goes into intermission. We go backstage to Sean Mooney, who's going to be talking with several of the talents involved in matches that have already went down and upcoming here on the Garden, including Dino Bravo, the Rockers, Andre the Giant and Bobby Heenan, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and the Honky Tonk Man with manager Jimmy Hart.
Well, thank you, Rod. Joining me now, Canada's strongest man, Dino Bravo. In a tough match this evening against B. Brian Blair, yet you were victorious.
Obviously, you don't know much about wrestling. It was a one-sided match. I played with him like a cat plays with a mouse. One-sided all the way. I hate him up. Brian Blair is nothing to me.
Okay, Dino Bravo, who's next? Rumors of Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Well, you know, I'm not going to make this a secret. He's the man that I want. Your hero, hacksaw, tough guy Jim Duggan. I want you, Duggan. You've been putting me down. I want to prove to the US of A that your hero is not worth nothing to the world's strongest man.
Well, we will see about that, Dino Bravo. We've heard for so long you say nothing nice about the United States. Is there anything you like about America?
I thought I already mentioned that, but I will for the people that don't know about it. There's one thing that I like about the United States of America, brother love.
Well, I think everyone knows what they think about brother love. We'll be back with more right after this. Well, joining me here now in the interview area are the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. They have not been in the World Wrestling Federation for very long, but they have made some big waves. And gentlemen, unofficially, from Jack Tunney, if you were to win this match tonight, which you did, you will get a shot at the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship. Marty Jannetty, what do you think about that?
That was our understanding, and I hope it still stands, because we told everybody when we came to the WWF there was one reason, and that was to prove to the world that we were the greatest tag team in wrestling today. And this is the place you got to come to prove that. And Demolition is the champions and have made us work our way up the ladder. And tonight was the final step to get to them. Now we have a title match. Demolition, you're the big, we're the underdogs. You're big, strong, and tough. But I tell you what, you got a couple of speedballs that are going to give everything they got to take the championship from you.
Okay, well, Axe and Smash of Demolition, a very powerful tag team known for their size and strength. You are ring tacticians, tag team specialists. Now, Shawn Michaels, how do you think you are going to measure up against Axe and Smash of Demolition?
Well, I tell you what, we'd be fools if we'd go out there and try to match strength them, but that's not what the Rockers are about. They're tag team specialists. We don't come out here saying we're the biggest, the baddest, the roughest, or the toughest. Nobody's taken more beatings than the Rockers. But we've been beat, but we've never been beaten. We've been beat down, but we've never stayed down. The thing about the Rockers is that they're always coming back. They're never dead. I'll tell you what, Demolition, you can go ahead and get ready to give the Rockers the biggest beating of their life. But the one thing you got to do is beat the hearts of Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, and to date, that hasn't been done yet. You're looking at the best record in the World Wrestling Federation as far as tag teams are concerned. And Demolition, when it's all said and done, the Rockers are going to be on top because your days as champions are numbered.
Well, joining me now, Andre the Giant. As we just saw, he faced the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. And
you forget one thing. You say Andre the Giant, the new world champion.
Well, I'm not quite sure they ruled
you
it.
You better say it.
Okay, Andre.
Say it.
Andre the Giant, world champion.
The new world champion.
You better learn real quick.
Are you going to say it or not?
New world champion, I think, is going to... Well, see, Bobby, I tell you, we try and remain neutral, but it was a little bit tough tonight.
But you don't understand. Things can be made a lot simpler for you and for Savage if they learn their lesson. You've just learned your lesson. Savage learned his. Of course, he saved the championship. They ran me out of there because the first lady of wrestling, the lovely Elizabeth, with $30 worth of cheap cologne on and a lousy-looking dress.
Garbage collector.
You're right, because she's managing garbage. You want to manage and fine. You don't run me out of there. You don't try to embarrass me and make a fool out of me. This man has never been defeated, and as far as I'm concerned, he's the world's champion.
For the second time in the world, I become the world champion and I don't have the belt because you, Jack Tunney. But Jack Tunney, I got some news for you. I know and everybody knows about it. I'm the new world champion. Last time I defeated Hulk Hogan. This time I defeat the not so Macho Man, Randy Savage. And I'm the world champion.
Sign your name, Savage.
Well, joining me right now is Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And Brutus, I can see that the wounds on your head have healed, but there must be a few things inside that we'll never hear when we talk about the outlaw Ron Bass.
Right. The scars, the mental scars, they never heal, man. Ron Bass, you cost me a lot more than everybody will ever know. And when you did that number on me, you made a big mistake because he didn't finish the job. Now, I don't know if you've been keeping up on current events, my friend, but when I do a number on somebody, beefcake style, I do it right. and you're the top of my list, pal. So when I get done with you, and I got the sleeper around your neck, and the slobber's running down your face, and the lights are going out, pal, just remember the sound of those little snippers. Clip, clip, clip. Because all that hair's going to be gone. You're going to be bald as a cue ball, Mr. Ron Outlaw Bass. So I hope you're ready to get your butt kicked once and for all. Madison Square Garden's New York City style.
Yeah. Okay, that match still to come. Brutus the Barber Beefcake to face the Outlaw. Ron Bass, let's go back to ringside. Well, joining me now in the interview area, the former Intercontinental Champion. It was almost to the day 1 month ago at SummerSlam 88 that he lost the Intercontinental Championship to the Ultimate Warrior.
We were ripped off. You know it, I know it, most of all the people know it. But just remember one thing, Warrior. When you mess with a bull, baby, you might get the horn.
I'm talking about a brutal tune. I'm talking about a man possessed with getting something back. I'm talking about the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest of all time. The total entertainment package. I sing, I dance, I wrestle, and of course I play the guitar, Sean. And you know the Honky Tonk Man has been robbed. I've been ripped off just like Jimmy Hart said. But tonight is the night. Tonight's the night the Honky Tonk Man plays the one and only tune for the Ultimate Warrior. Tonight's the night.
The Honky Tonk Man in pursuit of the Intercontinental Championship.
His Intercontinental Championship. My belt, because it belongs to me. It's my belt, and every time you say the word Intercontinental Championship, you say Honky Tonk Man's Intercontinental Championship belt, because you know it's mine. It belongs to me, and everybody watching this television knows. Everybody on the Madison Square Garden television network knows that the Honky Tonk Man is the greatest of all time. Thank you very much.
Well, the Honky Tonk Man, he will face the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental Championship. One tough road ahead.
Well, there you hear it. Dino Bravo trash-talking Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So it sounds like we have a new feud on our hands, unfortunately. Also, we're alerted with their big win here tonight over the Conquistadors. The Rockers have somehow been deemed the number one contenders. Rockers looking forward to a tag team title shot with Demolition. I, too, am looking forward to that matchup. We also hear from Andre the Giant and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Andre stealing the WWF title, at least here in New York. Andre forcing Sean Mooney to introduce him as the new WWF champion, and Sean, wise move there in following suit. Also, we hear from Brutus the Barber Beefcake about his upcoming matchup against the Outlaw Ron Bass, revenge on the mind of the Barber. And then from there, we hear from the Honky Tonk Man and manager Jimmy Hart. Honky looking to regain his IC title that he lost right here in the Garden 1 month ago to the Ultimate Warrior, as we head back to the ring for the second half of the Garden card. Going to see Scott Casey over Sandy Beach with a Bulldog. And then Randy Savage back out. The Macho Man looking showered, hair slicked back, but definitely not cooled off. Randy Savage has an open contract, inviting Andre the Giant to sign the dotted line for a rematch. Savage then vowing to kick Andre's ass right there on the open mic. Gotta love the Macho Man. As the action continues on, Brutus Beefcake defeating Outlaw Ron Bass, catching him running off the ropes with a crossbody. Now post-match, Bass attacking the Barber with Miss Betsy, number 2, wrapping around the throat of the Barber until the Rocker's able to make the save. Looked like the Outlaw was going for the Spurs yet again, gonna finish what he started before SummerSlam. Now, oddly enough, an injury so brutal, so gory that Beefcake, the Barber, could not make SummerSlam. You can't even tell he was ever cut here a month later. You would think at least bandage it up. Give us the illusion that it hurts you, Beefcake. What, and hide that pretty face? No way, says the Barber. Also, Bad News Brown over Tito Santana with the Ghetto Blaster. New opponent there for the Bad News Man. And the Honky Tonk Man going over on Intercontinental Champion Ultimate Warrior once again on a countout thanks to interference from Jimmy Hart. Now, post-match, Warrior going to destroy Honky Tonk's guitar for a little revenge, as the former champion will have to hope for a rematch if he wants to regain his IC gold. Now, we saw what just went down at MSG, but we see a similar card, but a lot of changed finishes the following day, September 30th, in Denver, Colorado at the Denver Auditorium. 6,500 fans out here. Going to see Scott Casey over Sandy Beach. Tito Santana pinned Bill Woods, who at this point, since he's all over the place, from the East Coast all the way over here in Denver, I have to think he's one of the ring crew / part-time still wrestler. Dino Bravo defeating B. Brian Blair here in Denver. The Conquistadors over the Rockers. So wait a minute, the Rockers go over the masked team at MSG, deemed the new number one contenders, at least in New York City. The following night, they lose to the Conquistadors. Does that mean the Latin American tag team are going to receive their own tag team title shot against Demolition? That would have been interesting. Also on the card here in Denver, Randy Savage battling Andre the Giant to a double countout. Terry Taylor over Sam Houston, this time with the Scorpion Deathlock. Brutus Beefcake over Ron Bass by pinfall yet again. King Haku this time pinning Junkyard Dog. And the Ultimate Warrior over Honky Tonk Man by DQ. Just a couple shows left here, guys. Oh, this is fun. A C show in Bellingham, Washington. At the Whatcom County Sports Arena, September the 29th. Originally scheduled Sherry versus Rockin' Robin does not take place. However, we do get midget action. Karate Kid over Little Tokyo. Paul Roma defeating Danny Davis. AKEEM making his house show debut here over one Ken Patera. The Powers of Pain downing the Bolsheviks. Main event going to see the $1 Million Man versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. No result for that one. And finally, we close out this grenade. A pair of shows here September 29th and 30th taking place Miami, Florida at the Arena, Springfield, Illinois at the Prairie Capital Convention Center. It's Blue Blazer over Barry Horowitz, Mr. Perfect defeating Jim Brunzell, Jake Roberts scoring pinfalls over Rick Rude, Hart Foundation again defeating the Fabulous Rougeaus, Greg Valentine over Don Morocco, blasting him across the head with a shin guard to steal the win there. Tag team champions Demolition continue to defeat the British Bulldogs, and Hulk Hogan going over the Big Boss Man yet again 2 nights in a row this time on a count out. Likely the same finish we saw before. Boss Man handcuffed to the top rope, hanging on the outside. Can't get back in. The Hulkster gonna go over. As we conclude our house show results for September of 1988, some interesting things are trending. We've seen the transformation, at least in the house shows, right here at the end of September, from the one-man gang to AKEEM. Terry Taylor now going to be dubbed the Red Rooster under the guidance of Bobby Heenan. Curt Hennig now labeled Mr. Perfect. We'll see more on that gimmick in the weeks to come here on TV. Also, we know Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, now named the Brainbusters, going to make their debut in the first week of October on WWF house shows. Then from there, we got to ask that ever-important question. Will the Hulk Hogan War Bonnet, a.k.a. the Fist Helmet, will it continue for another month here in the World Wrestling Federation? We'll look at all of that and so much more as we continue on. But up next, is more WWF September action, talking about WWF TV as we continue on with the grenade here next week. I promised a little change up in the format. And let me finally elaborate on that, guys. Now, from time to time moving forward, we're going to have some special guest co-hosts popping up here to go back in time and share their memories, their thoughts on some of the characters, the storylines, and ongoing WWF action here. So you never know who's going to pop in from time to time to share those thoughts and memories. Looking forward to the conversations as we get those prepared, but also another change, another small shift in the format. Don't worry, guys. We are staying true to the project, continuing on the Hulkamania era here in the WWF, so no worries with that. However, you may have noticed, since we started the old 1987 project in the WWF, I've been trying to do 2 weeks of WWF TV at a time. And with all of the shows now here at WrestleCopia, it can be a little overwhelming to grab all the sound bites and do all of the video reviews and the research needed to get it out every week. And every once in a while, you may notice we miss a week because I'm trying to get it all done. I'm attempting to prevent that from happening in the future, guys, because moving forward, we're going to be covering 1 week of WWF TV programming at a time here on the Grenade, which is a plus for everyone involved. It alleviates my stress in trying to squeeze everything in, but also it allows me more time to discuss and digest the things going on week to week here on WWF TV. Maybe a few more sound bites, but it'll also allow us a little more time each week to take a deeper dive, a deeper look into some of the characters, some of the storylines, etc., etc. So hopefully you guys enjoy the new format, which is not very much different from the old format, but as we really hit our stride here in the Hulkamania era, the fall of 88, I've been planning this since we were covering May of 88 to get past SummerSlam, and then we changed the format here, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Again, not a whole lot different, not a whole lot changing, but I feel like it's going to be best for both me as the narrator and you as the listeners. And just a quick reminder, speaking of all the podcasts here at WrestleCopia, head on over to WrestleCopia.com. Check out Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert and Somebody Say Something About Wildfire Tommy Rich joining the show permanently. Wildfire Tommy Rich, Doug Gilbert, Dangerous Conversations with Gene Jackson each and every week. Also, don't forget the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop, if we've begun telling the Knoxville story over there on the Wrestling Stoop, something you're surely not going to want to miss. Regional wrestling continues on with Georgia 81, UWF 86, Memphis 85, and other things in the works. Going to be taking a look at Chicago, St. Louis, Portland, 1970s WWF, going to revisit that, and so much more, so stay tuned to Regional Wrestling. And let us not forget some of the other great shows like Bob Smith and the Outdated Wrestling Hour, The Other Ship offering alternative discussion as it's more than just wrestling. Of course, Dave Dynasty and the Wrestling Nostalgia Podcast. Who's he going to interview next? You'll have to wait and see. Most recently, Dave speaking with John Nord, formerly the Berserker. Had to be a huss of a time to get Nord on there. Always a fun interview. But you can listen to all of those shows over there at WrestleCopia.com and everywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. Don't forget to follow me on social media, guys. Constantly uploading all sorts of great old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. Also, all the latest news going on in the WrestleCopia world, all there on social media. You can follow me on X at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, and subscribe. Lots of great videos over at YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Even added our podcast feeds recently to YouTube. And last but certainly not least, talking about Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, guys. That $5 all access tier is still there. Lots of great gifts for just $5, but also talking about that VIP Superfan tier. Join it now for all the great video casts we've started to add, including the recent edition of the Coliseum video cast. Want to thank Gene Jackson for joining me for the Best of the WWF Volume 1. We went back and looked at Gorilla Monsoon and Muhammad Ali, Larry Zbyszko versus Bruno Sammartino inside the steel cage, Mean Gene Okerlund stepping in the ring, you heard me right, Mean Gene teaming with Hulk Hogan all the way back in 1984, taking on George the Animal Steele and Mr. Fuji. We looked at all of that and so much more, and by the time this drops, get ready for Best of the WWF Volume 2 on the Coliseum videocast, and let us not forget Dan Ginnity, not just the Puro Academy podcast, but also the Puro Academy videocast, dropping, well, hopefully this week. Our first edition, going to be taking a look at Bruno Sammartino, Terry and Dory Funk Jr., King Curtis Ayakea, and so much more over there in Japan. Some great All Japan Classic footage we're going to be discussing on the very first Puro Academy videocast, and that's all available at the VIP Superfan tier. Join now, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, because spots are limited. And with all of that said and out of the way, when we return, we'll be kicking off the first week of September TV for the World Wrestling Federation right here in 1988 next time around. But until then, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
Well, joining me now, Andre the Giant. As we just saw, he faced the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
You forget one thing. You say Andre the Giant, the new world champion.
Well, I'm not quite sure they ruled
you
it.
You better say it.
Okay, Andre.
Say it.
Andre the Giant, world champion.
The new world champion.
You better learn real quick.
Are you going to say it or not?
New world champion, I think, is going to.
You know, for the second time in the world, I become the world champion and I don't have the belt because you, Jack Tunney. But Jack Tunney, I got some news for you. I know and everybody knows about it. I'm the new world champion. Last time I defeated Hulk Hogan. This time I defeat the not so Macho Man, Randy Savage. And I'm the world champion.
Sign your name, Savage.